The narrative commences with a physician summoning assistance, directing his team to initiate life-sustaining measures for the patient. Meanwhile, Jan, his chest heaving and falling, his heart pounding erratically on the brink of collapse, gasps for air. Jan, a devoted mechanical engineer for the past 2 decades, finds himself at the precipice of life and death, his relentless efforts yielding little more than dissatisfaction and solitude. His unyielding quest has finally caught up with him, causing harm to his mental well-being and leaving him in a vulnerable position. From the moment he was born, Jan has been plagued by misfortune. A car accident claimed the lives of his parents, leaving him orphaned. Despite the adversities, he persists, holding on to the belief that one day his life will be acknowledged and he will be deemed a success. However, that day never arrived. After completing his studies, he secured a low-wage position that barely allowed him to make ends meet. His personal life was equally dismal, as he had spent his entire life without any companionship, never experiencing the warmth of another's touch. And now, his journey of isolation appeared to be drawing to a close. "Jan, can you hear me?" The anxious voice of his closest friend pierced through the tumult. They attempted to drag him away from the brink, but Jan couldn't help but question the worth of his life. Is there any purpose to such a life? Exhausted, he thought, perhaps I should just take a rest. Upon waking, he discovers himself in a lavish chamber, adorned with silk drapes and sparkling crystal chandeliers. For a fleeting moment, he is overcome with anxiety, believing he has somehow depleted his funds to secure such an opulent hospital room. However, a message appears before his eyes. "Greetings, you have arrived in Elda, a realm of enchantment." The realization strikes him like a bolt of lightning. Could this be a fantasy-like scenario? In this new world, Jan finds himself transformed into Ren. Perplexed, he attempts to comprehend his situation, but the answers remain elusive. A week passes in this fantastical realm. Ren leads a life of luxury, with servants at his beck and call. Gradually, he unravels the truth about his circumstances. It turns out that he has passed away and been reincarnated as Ren Edgar, the 3rd son of Duke Ren Edgar. Ren has 2 siblings who have been his caretakers since he was a child. "Little brother, this is for you. You are growing up and should not go hungry," his sister said, placing a sumptuous meal before him. His brother handed him a sparkling bottle, saying, "This is magic water. It is said to increase magical power, and I got it at a high cost." Even his mother contributed to this nurturing environment, giving him a new shirt she had made herself and encouraging him to try it on. Ren, the youngest and most cherished family member, enjoyed a life of unparalleled luxury. However, as he reveled in this newfound opulence, he couldn't help but feel like an outsider in this world, questioning why he had been granted such blessings. To assuage his doubts, he reasoned that perhaps this was compensation for the hardships he had endured in his previous life. In the realm of Elda, magic powered the infrastructure, making it a truly remarkable place. The Corial Empire, the continent's largest human nation, was a melting pot of various races, including elves and dwarves. The Edgar family's influence was vast, overseeing a territory of 300,000 square kilometers. Their domain boasted fertile fields, a grand castle, and a population of over 1 million. As a noble, Ren had everything he could ever want, from fine clothing to a personal maid. Yet every time he looked into the mirror, he saw Jan's face staring back at him, a haunting reminder of his past life. One day, Ren's introspection was interrupted by Leah, a beautiful and cheerful maid who informed him that his father wanted to see him. She led him to the study, where his father, Aldine, was reviewing reports from across their lands. Ren greeted him with the practiced courtesy of a noble, awaiting his father's words. Aldine regarded his son with a serious expression, his tone carrying weight as he asked, "Do you know why I called for you?" The gravity of the moment made Ren uneasy, but he softly replied, "No, I don't, father." The Duke leaned back in his chair, his stern demeanor easing slightly. "Ren, you've reached the age to manage your own territory. Have you considered where you would like it to be?" The question left Ren stunned. His surprise turned into confusion as he hesitantly inquired about inheriting land. Aldine sighed at his son's naivety, explaining that it was customary for a noble of Ren's age to take charge of a territory. Rising from his chair, the Duke approached a large map mounted on the wall. "The land you'll oversee is in the northwest. It's relatively safe, but the lack of mages has made food supply a persistent issue." His tone grew more solemn as he continued. "While our territory is stable for now, the future of the Corial Empire is uncertain." Ren silently agreed with his father's assessment. The royal family's decline and the decaying political system had led to a fractured empire. Lords constantly clashed, with hidden rivalries and schemes weaving a dangerous web of competition that only grew more tangled with time. Since his rebirth, Ren experienced care and affection he had never known before. This newfound love made him determined to protect those who genuinely cared for him. Observing his son deep in thought, Aldyne grew concerned, questioning whether he was placing too much responsibility on Ren. In an attempt to ease the tension, he reassured his son that he wasn't alone. Aldyne reminded Ren that he had his older brother, his sister, and his father to support him. Ren, however, appeared to have an idea. He looked at his father with a newfound determination. With a serious tone, he asked if solving the food supply issue would make their territory safer. Aldyne smiled at Ren's enthusiasm but viewed his son's approach as overly simplistic. He explained that resolving the food problem required more than passion. It demanded meticulous planning and gradual implementation. But Ren wasn't thinking simplistically. He was drawing from the accumulated knowledge of humanity, forged through countless industrial revolutions. With unwavering confidence, he boldly declared that he would take on the responsibility of addressing the food crisis. Ren's journey to his new domain began. Island City, the remote territory assigned to him, was a land rich in potential but fraught with challenges. To the north, it bordered the territory of Grand Duke Ryan, a sworn adversary. To the west lay the enigmatic lands of the elves, and to the south stretched the vast, uncharted ocean. The territory's strategic location had made it a frequent battleground, leaving its fertile lands barren, its population sparse, and its resources depleted. As the carriage carried him toward Island City, Ren immersed himself in the documents detailing his new domain. Leah, his loyal companion, watched him intently, concern etched on her face. Ren knew that revitalizing the territory required increasing its population, as a strong workforce was the backbone of any industrial revolution. He understood the enormity of the challenge but believed his efforts would succeed. Ren wasn't starting from scratch. Among his assets was a special skill granted to him by the system, Human Resource Scan. This ability allowed him to assess and identify talented individuals with ease. Having tested the skill on his family, Ren had established a clear understanding of the world's talent standards. His first priority upon arriving in Island City was clear: find extraordinary individuals who could aid in restoring the territory. Meanwhile, Leia recalled the Duke's instructions to her: support Ren and ensure he didn't create chaos in the region. Silently, she prayed that Ren wouldn't make a mess of things. In Island City, the city lord's residence was abuzz with tension. A man, visibly anxious, reported that the Duke's youngest son would arrive soon. He suggested taking preemptive action. However, the masked man seated across from him dismissed the concern with a cold, measured response. He instructed them to await further orders and not to touch Ren for now. His calm demeanor masked simmering anger as he spoke of making Aldyne pay for past transgressions. The blonde-haired man nearby was less composed. Nervously, he fretted over his falsified financial records and embezzled taxes. However, the masked man laughed dismissively, deriding Ren as an ignorant playboy who would never notice such details. All they needed to do was hand him some irrelevant documents upon his arrival. The blonde-haired man reluctantly obeyed and left to prepare for Ren's reception. As Ren's carriage approached the outskirts of Island City, he peered out at the barren fields and abandoned farmlands. His expression turned serious as he surveyed the scene. He requested a map from Leah and examined the surrounding area meticulously. His gaze lingered on the river to the west and the harbor to the south. A sudden idea struck him. Dredging the river and building a canal to connect it to the sea could breathe new life into the land. Ren's thoughts were interrupted by a desperate cry. A young girl knelt in the dirt, clutching the leg of a man, likely her father, who seemed intent on heading to a gambling den. The girl pleaded tearfully, begging him not to gamble away their remaining money, which was meant for her mother's treatment. Her voice trembled as she explained that losing the money would doom her ailing mother. The man, consumed by his greed, roared at the girl to let go. His confidence in his luck blinded him to her desperation. When she refused to release him, he raised his hand in anger, intending to strike her. Before the blow could land, Ren intervened. With a swift punch, he sent the man sprawling to the ground. Fury burned in Ren's eyes, though he winced immediately. This was, after all, the first time he had ever thrown a punch. Leah rushed to Ren's side, her face filled with concern. She scolded him gently, remarking that next time he planned to hit someone, he should at least warn her so she could bring protective gear. Ren chuckled, brushing off her concern. He explained that the punch had been a spur-of-the-moment decision, leaving no time for preparation. As he spoke, he strode toward the man sprawled on the ground, instructing Leah to check on the girl while he dealt with the gambler. The man, still clutching his face, stared up at Ren in shock. Ren's gaze was sharp and filled with contempt. He berated the man for taking money meant for his family and gambling it away, even resorting to hitting his own daughter. The gambler scowled and tried to defend himself, asking who Ren was to meddle in his affairs. Ren stepped closer, his presence imposing. He warned the man that it didn't matter who he was. If he ever caught him near a gambling den again, the consequences would be severe. Ren's cold tone and threatening demeanor made the man pale with fear. Stammering, the gambler promised to stay away from gambling dens and quickly fled the scene. Feeling satisfied with his handling of the situation, Ren turned back to the girl, who stood there frozen in shock. Concerned, he asked if she was alright, and activated his system to check her condition. The girl, named Lillian, bowed her head in gratitude, thanking Ren profusely. She explained how losing the money would have meant losing the chance to save her mother's life. As Ren studied the system screen, he was intrigued to see her stats. While most were ordinary, one unique attribute stood out: her potential in agriculture and harvesting. Recognizing this hidden talent, Ren decided on the spot to recruit her for his plans to restore the land. Ren smiled warmly at her, noting that she was likely heading into the city to find a doctor for her mother. He suggested she join his group, as they were also traveling there. Lillian hesitated, concerned about dirtying his carriage, but Ren reassured her with a calm smile. He explained that a carriage was just a vehicle, merely planks of wood pieced together. There was no such thing as clean or dirty when it came to transportation. Besides, he had a few questions for her. Suddenly, Ren's tone grew serious. He questioned why a gambling den existed in such a poverty-stricken area. He recalled the region's recent hardships. Last fall, soldiers sent by Grand Duke Ryan had attacked, leading to heavy casualties. Early in the spring, devastating floods had ravaged the land, leaving its people struggling to survive. The streets of Island City bore the scars of these events, with beggars lining the roads and despair visible everywhere. Walking through the ruined streets, Ren decided it was essential to conduct a full population census to assess the remaining productive workforce. First, however, he planned to visit the city lord's manor to review the reserve funds and determine what could be allocated for infrastructure improvements. Ren asked Lillian for the manor's location, but before she could answer, a shout interrupted their conversation. A blonde-haired man on horseback barreled down the street, shouting for people to move out of his way. The man seemed indifferent to the chaos he caused, his actions reckless and dangerous. Leah reacted swiftly, pulling Ren aside just in time to avoid the galloping horse. The rider disappeared into the distance, unconcerned about the commotion he had left behind. Leah, however, glared after him furiously. To her, anyone who dared harm Ren deserved the harshest punishment. As Leah's grip tightened protectively around Ren, he struggled to breathe and finally managed to get her attention. She quickly released him, apologizing and asking if he was hurt. Ren reassured her with a smile, expressing his gratitude for her quick actions. Turning serious again, Ren asked Lillian if she recognized the rider. Trembling, she explained that he was the young master of the Elwyn family, whose wealth stemmed from owning all the gambling dens in Island City. Ren's expression shifted to one of interest. If the Elwyn family was wealthy, it presented an opportunity to fund his plans. He asked Lillian to take him to one of the gambling dens, but she tried to dissuade him, worried that he would lose all his money. Ren, however, remained confident. He assured her that the gambling den wouldn't be taking anything from him. Watching his determined figure, Lillian couldn't help but wonder who this noble young man truly was. Soon, Ren arrived at the gambling den. The building stood out starkly from the surrounding structures, its grandeur flaunting the disparity between wealth and poverty. Guards were posted at the entrance, but Ren approached without hesitation. A sly smile crossed his face as he thought of his plans. He would take everything from this place to fund his industrial projects. Inside, the den was a chaotic mix of noise and desperation. Gamblers pleaded for loans, certain they could win back their losses in the next round. Others celebrated fleeting victories or lamented crushing defeats. Ren observed the scene with a critical eye. As long as this gambling den existed, he realized, the people of Island City would never have the motivation to work diligently. Leah leaned close to Ren, her voice low and cautious as she informed him that their soldiers had surrounded the gambling den. She asked if they should proceed. Ren, maintaining his calm demeanor, told her to wait. He wanted to capture an even bigger target. As he stood there, a staff member from the gambling den approached him with a polite smile and asked what game the young master would like to play. Ren smiled back, feigning inexperience, and admitted that he wasn't very familiar with gambling but wanted to try a few rounds. He asked the staff member to recommend a simple game. Sensing an easy mark, the attendant suggested a dice game and handed Ren 2 complimentary chips, claiming they were free for him to try his luck. Ren accepted them, seemingly pleased. The game began as Ren casually tossed the 2 chips onto the small betting slot. Watching this, The two casino staff members exchanged smug glances, confident in their scheme. The dice rolled quickly, landing on 6 and 6, big. The attendant feigned sympathy, consoling Ren by saying he had been close to winning. Ren played his part perfectly, expressing surprise at how quickly the game ended. He remarked that it wasn't very entertaining and said he felt hungry, turning to leave. The attendant, however, stepped in front of him, blocking his way. His polite demeanor dropped, replaced with a mocking tone as he demanded payment for the chips Ren had used. Ren frowned, feigning confusion. He asked when he had agreed to owe anything. The attendant sneered and explained that the chips were not gifts, but loans. He added that each chip was worth 100 gold coins, and with processing fees and interest, Ren now owed 250 gold coins. Smirking, the attendant suggested that if Ren couldn't pay, he could leave his maid as collateral. Lillian, outraged by the scam, quickly spoke up. She accused the attendant of lying and explained to Ren that the chips were worth no more than a silver coin each. The attendant, furious at Lillian for exposing his trick, shouted for the guards to beat her. Before he could finish his command, Ren struck him with a powerful punch, sending the man flying backward and crashing into a nearby table. Adjusting his clothes calmly, Ren remarked that someone like the attendant had no authority to speak here. The casino erupted into chaos as gamblers scrambled to grab the chips that scattered across the floor. Ren sighed as he watched them, muttering that none of these people were of any use. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed through the room, demanding to know who was causing trouble. The speaker was the same man Ren had encountered on horseback earlier. Ren's lips curled into a smile. He had finally caught the bigger fish. The man's arrival silenced the chaos instantly. He glared at the room with displeasure before ordering his guards to teach the troublemakers a lesson. Without hesitation, the guards began mercilessly beating those nearby, ignoring their cries for mercy. The remaining crowd watched in fear, too scared to intervene. The young master of the Elwyn family sneered at the onlookers, threatening them to behave or face the same fate. Lillian, clutching Leah's arm, whispered that it was all her fault. She blamed herself for leading them to the den and felt ashamed for putting Ren and Leah in such a position. She recalled how Ren had taken her mother to the hospital, personally ensuring she received treatment and promising to cover the cost. That memory filled her with determination. Summoning her courage, Lillian stepped forward and declared that she would not allow them to scam her brother. Her boldness caught everyone's attention, though most were too afraid to react. Murmurs spread through the crowd, questioning who she was and how she dared challenge someone like the young master of the Elwyn family. Wayo, the young master, stared at her coldly, enraged by her defiance. Lillian stood her ground, accusing him of using the casino to exploit and destroy families. She refused to let him bully Ren and Leia, calling them good people who didn't deserve such treatment. Wayu, seething with anger, lunged at her. Despite her fear, Lillian refused to move, shielding Ren with her small frame. Before Wayu could harm her, Ren intercepted the attack, grabbing his arm. Ren then activated his system skill to assess Wayu's stats. The results revealed low attributes, only 5 loyalty points, and a personality marked by cruelty and bloodlust. Ren recognized the Elwyn family as a potential threat, one capable of betrayal at any moment. Blocked, Wayo glared at Ren and accused him of not respecting the rules of the casino. Ren calmly released his grip and responded that he understood the rules perfectly. In this world, power dictated everything, and the strong made the rules. Wayo sneered arrogantly, fully convinced that he was the strongest in the city. He questioned why Ren still dared to oppose him, asking if Ren even knew who he was. Ren's expression remained steady as he responded confidently, asserting that he didn't need to know who Wayo was. The only thing that mattered was his own strength, as his fist was bigger, and his word was the law. With that, he clapped his hands, signaling his soldiers to storm into the casino. The scene then shifted to a grand banquet held in Ren's honor, gathering the city's most prominent and influential figures, each with their own hidden agendas. Among the attendees was Lucas, the head of a prestigious family. Lucas planned to collaborate with the city lord during this banquet to teach Ren a lesson. He had intended to use Wayo to establish a connection with Ren that he could later manipulate, but he was puzzled by Wayo's absence. Frustrated, he realized he couldn't rely solely on the city lord's incompetence and would need to adapt his plans. As the banquet hall buzzed with murmurs, a loud voice suddenly announced Ren's arrival. The atmosphere shifted instantly, growing tense and silent as Ren entered. His presence commanded attention, and the guests quickly adjusted their demeanors. The head of the Raven family hurried forward, introducing himself and presenting a gift to Ren. Another guest, the head of the Jose family, eagerly introduced his daughter, hoping to curry favor. However, Ren's sharp expression silenced the room as he instructed everyone to quiet down. With everyone present, Ren declared that it was time to officially begin. He gestured for his attendants to bring in a large blueprint, a peculiar object that immediately caught everyone's attention. Pointing to the blueprint, Ren explained that it was a design for a dam that he had sketched earlier that afternoon. He mentioned that he would enlist skilled craftsmen during its construction to confirm the finer details. The room was filled with whispers as the attendees exchanged confused glances. Someone asked aloud what a dam was, speculating whether it was a tool for fishing. Ren quickly called for silence and instructed Leah to display a map of the region. With the room now quiet, he began his presentation. Ren explained that during his survey of Island City earlier that day, he had identified the root cause of the city's annual flooding, a poorly managed canal in the far north. By building a dam at this location, they could control water flow, using it to irrigate fields during the dry season and releasing excess water during the rainy season to prevent floods. Lucas, listening intently, couldn't help but be impressed by the ingenuity of the plan. He realized that if the dam was successfully built, it would significantly boost the city's food production. For the first time, he acknowledged that Ren possessed a sharp and innovative mind. An older man in the audience asked how the project concerned them, prompting Ren to explain calmly that he needed their investments to fund the dam's construction. This statement shocked the crowd, sparking a wave of grumbling. Many protested, claiming they were too poor to contribute. Lucas remained silent, privately thinking that while Ren was intelligent, he was also naive to expect these opportunists to willingly invest. Ren, however, wasn't as naive as they assumed. Smiling, he reminded them there was no need to feign poverty. He had a plan to make everyone a fortune. Ren revealed that earlier that afternoon, he had seized a casino and confiscated nearly 50,000 gold coins.